Facebook will soon begin issuing payments to millions of users. This is all part of a $725 million settlement over claims, really, that the social media platform misused some of the user data. And joining us now to talk about this is Dahlia Saper with Saper Law. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks again for having me. It's always fun to be on.
I know, and this is one of those stories that anytime we post it, anytime we tell people that you may be getting paid from anybody, no matter if it's Facebook or whomever, people definitely start reading that article. What happened in this particular case?
So this is a long-standing class action lawsuit that involves the allegation that Facebook was kind of cavalier, essentially, with the way that it allowed third parties to use their API in order to manipulate that data, use that data for a purpose that was not fully disclosed and authorized by the average Facebook user. And it really all came to head with the Cambridge Analytica firm that used and hired developers to extract a lot of detailed information about people on Facebook in order to manipulate political campaigns or, again, harvest that data for a purpose that was separate from, hey, Facebook needs your info in order to make Facebook function. So this is not a data breach case. It's not a Biometric Information Privacy Act case. It's really a consolidation of several cases involving the failure, essentially, to disclose the nature of the information that was being shared with third parties like Cambridge Analytica.
Has anything changed in terms of Facebook when it comes to disclosing that to users?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, Facebook has more robust privacy policies, disclosures. It's in fact obligated to be far more transparent, as all social media platforms and even small business websites have to be now. We've got European privacy laws, international privacy laws, and even new state laws that govern the collection, dissemination, and really disclosure of individuals' private information. And private information can be as simple as, your IP address, where you're located, how often you interact with the site, and of course, your name, your address, and so forth. Anything that's really personally identifying.
Let me ask you this, because I'm looking at some information here. It says anyone in the United States who used Facebook between May 24th of 2007 and December 22nd of 2022 are eligible to be included in this settlement. Do we know how many people this actually impacts?
Well, this case is really notable because of the sheer number of people it might affect. And I think when I looked at the numbers last, 28 million people have already signed a register to try to get a piece of that $750 million settlement. So there's $725 million settlement. The payout's going to be fairly small in light of the large number of people who are signing up to get their check. On average, you might get $28 to $29. Big chunk of that 725 goes to the lawyers. About $180 million of it goes to the attorneys that brought this case, which a lot of articles and news media is highlighting. But ultimately, if you get the message that says you might be eligible, there's a point system. It's based on how long you were a user and whether you were a user during the relevant time period, which was 2007 to 2022. And based on their spreadsheet, their calculation, you'll get a check. It could be as small as $5. It could be, as much as $38. The lead plaintiffs in the case are getting about $15,000.
Let me ask you this, Attorney Saper, because when I hear $725 million, I think, whoa, that is a heck of a lot of money. Facebook will still exist. What do you make of that they can just shell out? And this is not the first time that they've had to pay out money for something. What do you make of that they can pay out $725 million and still it's business as usual?
I'll say it's not always business as usual. You're dealing with platforms and really novel issues. I think it's unprecedented that we have ways to really aggregate this much data from one platform in one place. And so while I think we want to vilify the social media platforms, and there's always this like push and pull, at the end of the day, these are new business models. They have achieved extraordinary kind of almost utility status with the average person. I'm not even going to say American. So inevitably, you're going to have these types of legal issues. And Facebook, as much as they can afford maybe to pay these out, they can't afford the public backlash that is, people concerned about the platform's privacy. Right when the suit was filed and the Cambridge Analytica scandal came out, there was a big departure from the platform. So I think it's again this push and pull. You want the platform to continue to operate, to innovate, but you also need laws and restrictions on what they're able to collect, how they're able to collect it, and to be transparent to the users about, what happens if I do interact with this site.
Let me ask you this. Google, it came out a few days ago that Google must pay $425 million in class action over privacy. What makes the case that we're talking about, the settlement with Facebook, different from what is unfolding with Google?
These are all different fact scenarios. The damages and the amount is really fact specific. It depends on how many users it impacted, what the egregiousness level might be. Sometimes they're easy to compare, sometimes they're not. I would say in these situations, it's more about like what was the level of knowledge, complicity of the platform, with respect to that particular case.
Let me ask you something. This is a little off topic, and if it goes too far off topic, you can tell me. But I'm just thinking about the totality of what has been unfolding in our country the last few days. We had a situation, and I'm sure you've seen it, being that you're in this space, of one of the people that were taken into custody for this Charlie Kirk killing had nothing to do with it. It explodes on social media. People are sharing the person's picture. People are sharing the person's address where they live. Is there any recourse for that person to regain, who they were before all of this? They had nothing to do with it. From a social media perspective, is there anything that can be done to really, I guess, prove that this person is now innocent from a legal perspective?
Well, that's a great question. You've got from a legal perspective, you've got from the court of public opinion. And so oftentimes when clients tell me they've been misrepresented online or by news reporters, the first question is who made the misrepresentation? If it's in the context of a legal investigation, sometimes you're out of luck. If you become a limited public figure, meaning that you're a regular person, but suddenly you're in the spotlight because of a notable event, you may also be out of luck. So legally, you can attempt to bring a defamation claim, but reporters and news outlets are usually shielded if they are just merely reporting what law enforcement has done. But if someone was to maliciously lie about that person's involvement in a crime, that is the subject and grounds for a defamation lawsuit in most states.
Let me ask you this.
Not every state.
Yeah, very good point you bring up there. Let me ask you about that, a little bit deeper into that. Because, for example, we're going to just make up a name because we don't want to be held liable for anything. Jane Doe, okay? Jane Doe is a person taken into custody. Turns out Jane Doe had nothing to do with it. You search Jane Doe's name, it is everywhere. Jane Doe needs a job. Jane Doe goes to try to get a job. And if said employer searches, their name is now attached with that thing, crime, whatever. Is there anything that Jane Doe can do to get that information pulled off the internet?
Very hard. The answer is probably no, because to the extent it is factually reported that she was maybe not ultimately charged, but initially arrested or whatever the allegation might be, her best recourse is to launch a counter PR campaign to flood the internet with what is actually the truth, that this was an improper allegation against me, because the legal recourse is expensive, time consuming, and oftentimes unpredictable.
And I'm sure with all of this stuff happening, social media is so interesting. With all of this stuff happening, I'm sure it is definitely keeping you in business because so many different things pop up every single day. Wouldn't you agree?
Well, 20 years in, the firm was founded really right when Facebook was in its infancy. And since I founded the firm in 2005, I've been on panels addressing all the different ways these social media platforms affect our lives and could really invade our lives in a way that we may not expect or want. There are new ways to sabotage namely using social media, whether it's using fake accounts or soliciting fraudulent donations or promoting products without fully disclosing that they've paid endorsements. So yes, there's always something novel and interesting happening because of, I would say, social media's ubiquity.
Yeah, I think we'll be talking to you again because there's a lot to talk about. Attorney Saper with Saper Law, thank you for being with us and have a great weekend. Good weekend to you.
Thank you for having me. You too.